So for the next 10 or 12 minutes, I want to give you a bit of a portrait, some data points on our demographics, some already mentioned by the Congressman, as well as some of the economic data points of Marin's older adults. So if we could cue up the PowerPoint, I just need to click it. Okay. So as we go throughout the day and we talk about policies and services and so forth, I think, of course, it's very important to remember that at the heart of it, we're talking about our people and our population. Here's some pictures of people in Marin, older adults, out and about, active, engaged, enjoying the company of each other, and that's what we want to see, and that's the county and society that we want to have here in Marin. As we look at the economic conditions of Marin's older adults, it looks like there's about 4 levels. One level of folks who are doing well. They have enough financial resources, enough savings, enough assets, enough income. They're okay now, they're able to meet expenses, and they're not worried about anything coming down the road. They're going to have enough, they're going to outlive their assets. And then I think we get to the next level. I think of them as the well now but worried. Folks who have enough right now but are concerned. Will their savings last them? Will they have enough if they need extensive care a longer time in the later part of their life? And I think there's a significant group of people that are falling into those conditions. I was particularly struck by this a couple of months ago. I have a friend, we worked together probably 25 years ago. We've kept in touch. I see her maybe once every year or two. And I went to her house to celebrate her 88th birthday. She and I going to lunch. She is physically healthy, cognitively healthy. She made the usual requisite joke, can you believe I've made it this long? But then something was different. Her face changed, she got somber, and she said, I don't know what I'm going to do if I keep living this long. And I go, what do you mean? She said, if I live into my 90s or later, into my mid-90s or later, I'm not going to have enough money. And God forbid if I have to have caregiving expenses and so forth. And this is someone who planned and saved and had everything ready to go. So I think that's a significant factor for many Marin's older adults. And then we get into the next level, next 2 levels. The next level being those who are the hidden poor. Folks who are above the federal poverty level, they don't qualify for public assistance, but they don't have the income or the resources to be able to comfortably make it through the month, and they certainly don't have the resources if they need long-term care or if they own their home and need their roof fixed. So they are those who are worried today, as well as the 5% of people that we have living at the federal poverty level. By the way, the federal poverty level is $1,000 a month, so we have 5% of our population trying to make it in that way. And why it's imperative that we have this summit today is if we've already got 26% of people here in Marin economically struggling month after month, where our demographics are going, if we don't do something about it and change these conditions, we will have more and more people in this situation. As mentioned, I'm going to use 60. It's the federal definition of older Americans. Right now, 27% of people 60 plus in this county. In just about 6 years, 1 in 3 of us is going to be 60 years old in this county. And then we're going to peak out, according to the California Department of Finance projections, at 37% of the population being 60 or over by 2035, which actually isn't so far away. Right now, we're a younger, older county. Most older adults are in their 60s. As we get to 2035, we will have as many people over the age of 80, 90, 100 and beyond, as we will have age 60. And if you think about that, I know that nobody in this room wants Marin in 2035 to be a place where we have these 80, 90-year-old plus struggling and struggling and struggling. Right now, actually this data is from 2015, so it's probably more expensive when it comes to rent. This is what you need just to get your basics, your transportation, your medication, clothing, utilities, and housing. So if you're a single renter, if you're a 75-year-old retiree, you worked as a bank teller or a grocery clerk throughout your life, and you're renting your apartment as you always have, you're going to need about $31,000. If you happen to be someone who is at 300% of federal poverty level or less, so that's $36,000 in income per year or less, 60% of your monthly income is going to go to pay that rent here in Marin. This doesn't leave you much after that. If you're a couple and you are still have a mortgage on your home, on average you're going to need about $50,000 to get just those basic cost of living. This doesn't include gifts for your grandkids, vacations, or other things that we all would enjoy. Here are the income levels of older adults. This is not asset level, it's just income. You see in the green bar there, good. Over half of the people certainly have enough income to meet their basic needs and aren't going to have to worry about meeting their basic needs. We have that next tier, that next level, 19%. They're above the basic level, but you can't just say on income they're doing really, really well. And then we get into that 21%, those people that are the hidden poor, that are in that gap between public assistance and having enough to make it. 21%, so 1 out of 5 older adults, and you combine that with the people who are already living at the federal poverty level month after month, and we've got fully 26%, 1 out of 4 adults in Marin, basically struggling because of these economic conditions. Food insecurity was mentioned. I think when you look at these economic conditions, it really becomes visceral. I mean, hunger. Food insecurity is a policy term that means I'm hungry, I don't know if I'm going to have enough money for food, or I don't know if I'm going to be able to get healthy food. When we did our area plan for my agency about 3 years ago and surveyed older adults here in Marin, of those people that fell below that 300% threshold at the poverty level, 1 out of 4 of them said that they struggle to have enough money to buy food every single month. So 1 out of 4 people here in Marin County. Now, I will say, since that time, some great work has been done, work at getting information out about food pantries, farmers markets, extra food that can go out to older adults. I think that's an example of how it's all together now and how we must address these issues together. So we look at the food insecurity, and probably no surprise to this audience, when we look at the economics or gender disparities, more women than men are going to fall in that poverty level or the hidden poor. The blue that you see there is federal poverty level. The lighter blue is that economic gap, the hidden poor. So here in Marin, disproportionately, as across our country, affecting women more than men, but not good for either gender. We'll look at racial disparities, and I'm hoping that some of the panelists may have something more locally. I wasn't able to get that. Is Marin different, better, or worse? But in the state of California, you see the disparities. So we have both gender and racial disparities disproportionately affecting people economically. And then we look at the map of Marin, for those who are familiar with Marin. So in the sort of the yellow ochreish, that's showing that about 1 to 25% of people, this is actually based on age 65, are falling at that 300% or lower. And then we get into the green area, so in Novato and San Rafael, they're getting into that 26 to 50% of people 65 years and older are falling at 300% below the federal poverty level. So I think it's like 32% in Novato and 28% in San Rafael. When you go out to West Marin and you see Point Reyes and Inverness and Bolinas, you not only have people economically struggling, you have people who are geographically isolated. So we combine all this together, the gender disparities, the food insecurity, the racial disparities, and the geographical isolation, and think about our older adults and what we have here in Marin, and it is a social justice issue. It is an equity issue, clearly, when we have those disparities that we have. And some great work's been coming out of the Frameworks Institute in the last few years, encouraging us as a nation to reframe our conversations about aging and how we look at being an older adult and older adults in our society, to recognize that every decade of life has its challenges, its opportunities, to recognize that people of all ages are valuable, they have a lot to contribute, or they've already contributed, and to get away from the judgment that we so often see placed on older adults. So if you are that retired grocery store clerk at age 75 renting your apartment, let's say it's not your fault that the rents have risen so high. It's not your fault that the stock market crashed 10 years ago, right when you retired, and you weren't able to recover from that even 10 years later. That's a societal issue. And we're not going to be a healthy society if we don't value all the contributions that you provided as the grocery clerk, the bank teller, or whomever. You'll be hearing a lot about justice throughout today's program and equity, and I just think that's really the heart of this matter ultimately.